The murder rate is lowest since 2003 or something. It's lower than most European capitals and certainly lower than every US state. And we talk a lot about stolen watches and handbags and all those expensive items, which when it happens, of course, it's horrible. But the rates of those are falling drastically, 60% year on year. So the position is improving a lot.
The difficulty is, look, I don't know where those stats have come from, but I'm going to take your word for it because I believe you to be an honest broker.
Right. This clip is the entire UK debate in one neat little box. Watch the pattern. Someone raises crime and women's safety, and immediately you get three moves: stats, guilt trip, and then the smear. And at the end, the magic word: complex. That's how they keep the borders weak and the public quiet.
But to coin a favourite phrase of the West, of the left, although probably increasingly the West, it ain't my lived experience, Sebastian. I've moved out of the capital precisely because of the levels of crime, the levels of street harassment, the levels of dirt, the rapidly changing demographics, which, you're not allowed to say this because you're a racist if you do. But, I used to live in Earl's Court, and within 4 years, it went from being, all right, a bit of a bogey part of the borough of Kensington, but a nice place to live, very family oriented, to within those 4 years just becoming something unrecognisable. All those small independent shops had closed, yet more betting shops, yet more takeaway shops, yet more vape stores, souvenir shops. It seemed to me a lot of the hotels in Earl's Court.
I've moved out of the capital. Street harassment, rapidly changing demographics. It just felt like a constant knot, anxiety. There's the tell. When people say lived experience, the establishment usually loves it, until it's a normal Brit saying, "My city feels less safe." Then suddenly lived experience becomes
anecdotal and unhelpful.
And notice what's actually being said here. Not "I hate a group, but I changed how I live." That matters, because safety isn't a spreadsheet. Safety is, can you check your phone without looking over your shoulder? Can your daughter get home without being harassed? Can you live normally?
Might no longer be doing holiday trade or tourist trade, but might be making their money from various entities who pay them to look after asylum seekers instead. And I had, within 6 months, people tried to nick my phone 3 times. 3 times. And I'd spent 10 years living in London. It hadn't happened once before then. And everybody I speak to is saying the same thing. Everybody now, if you live in London, has had some sort of experience or knows of someone who's had some sort of experience, which it's not just a case of, oh, well, they tried to nick your phone. It's only a phone. Everyone's got phone insurance. It changes the whole way you live, especially perhaps if you're a woman, from there on afterwards. You're too scared.
Knife crime lower now? Murder rate lower than most European capitals? Rates falling drastically. Okay, maybe those numbers are true. Maybe they're selectively framed. But here's the problem. The public doesn't experience rate comparisons to Europe. They experience the street. And when politicians hide behind stats while your reality is getting worse, trust collapses. And once trust collapses, every other topic gets poisoned, especially immigration. Because people start thinking, if they'll gaslight me about crime, what else are they hiding? Now watch the pivot. The moment this gets uncomfortable, they jump to housing like it's an innocent success story. London is a victim of its own success. Translation: stop complaining. The queues are normal.
Finger on the real issue when you talked about housing. Of course, there is a massive housing crisis. That is probably the biggest problem that London has. But doesn't it also show us that London is a victim of its own success? So many more people want to move to London than we have housing for. So really the direction of travel.
What? There's a massive housing crisis. The biggest problem that London has. Yes, and here's the part they avoid saying out loud. Housing is not just demand. It's policy. It's who gets priority, who gets placed where, and whether the state can even keep up with the promises it makes. Then the host goes there. Foreign money parking assets in London. That's not right-wing. That's reality.
pick at that a little bit, if you don't mind, because there's a lot. When you look at the demographics coming into London, there's increasingly amount of illegals in London. But also, one of the big problems we've had when it comes to housing stock is for too long, we've allowed miscreants from foreign countries to use buying housing stock in London as their Swiss bank account. You know, when they had these new developments down in, what's it called, the place with the new American embassy. I want to call it 12 Trees.
Yeah.
Foreign countries buying housing stock, whole entire blocks used as assets and social housing. People weren't even born in the country. Now, you can disagree with the tone, but the question underneath is fair. If you're paying tax, stuck on a waiting list, and your rent jumps, why are you being told to shut up and clap? And here comes the second move. That's not my lived experience. Always same script. One side says, this is happening. The other says, well, I don't see it in my bubble. And the person watching at home thinks, you don't see it because you don't have to. Then the debate jumps to that British citizen abroad controversy, where the political class suddenly discovers infinite compassion and infinite resources.
Should be noted. But the fact is, he is a British citizen. He has been since 2021. I gather that he got that through his mother. And so it was our duty, as it would be for you or I or any other British citizen, if they're imprisoned in a foreign country, to do our best to get them out and to take on those draconian regimes and do our job as Britain to try to show what's right to those countries as well. And so, look, yes, we don't like everything he said in the past, but ultimately it was the right decision to help him out of there and to get him back to Britain.
Really?
He is a British citizen. It was our duty to do our best to get them out. Fine. If someone is a citizen, the state has obligations. But here's the question they never answer. Why does the same state suddenly become helpless when it's time to remove people who have no right to be here? Why is it duty one way, but complex the other way? And the hypocrisy point lands. People say we shouldn't jail people for tweets, then freak out when the tweet is ugly. So what's the rule? Do we have principles or do we have vibes? Now, we get to the part that's quietly the most damning. The machine, the home office culture, the incentives, the language.
Even if they eventually get a deportation order, it's mainly voluntary. Very few of them ever get sent home. The Home Office hasn't the resources or willpower to do it. They're told to call these people customers, not applicants. I mean, a lot of these people are being bullied from above as to the approach they've got to take, although I do agree.
They're told to call these people customers, not applicants. That line is insane, because language is policy. Customer implies entitlement. Applicant implies scrutiny. And if your own system is trained to treat enforcement like bad manners, you'll get exactly what we have. Claims piled up, removal slow, and the public feeling like the law is optional. And then we get the emotional peak, women's safety. This is where the debate often goes off the rails, because people either pretend nothing's happening or they start blaming entire groups. Both are toxic.
Who've sat on their phone, looked at pornography, see a girl with blonde hair and think she's easy meat. That is reality. And until we can listen to women, until we can protect women and children, we're failing. We're failing as a country, and I'm fed up of people throwing moral superiority. Oh, you're a racist. Oh, that's not very kind. I don't care. I don't want one more girl's life destroyed by open-door immigration, which is...
Certain cultures think women are fair game. Until we can listen to women, we're failing. Let me be crystal clear. Individuals are individuals. You do not get to smear Muslims or any ethnicity as a whole. That's lazy and it's wrong. But here's also true. Rules still matter. Vetting still matters. And if someone comes here and commits sexual violence, they should be jailed. And if they're a foreign national with no right to remain, they should be removed when legally possible. No activist excuses, no community tensions blackmail, no media soft focus. And when someone tries to shut this conversation down with "you're racist," that's not an argument. That's a muzzle.
dangerous. It is wrecking our country. It is wrecking our security. We don't know who are terrorists. We don't know who've committed offences. We don't know who's on the run for that reason. I don't care. It is reckless. It's like getting behind the wheel of a car high on drugs. Oh, some people might be able to drink 10 pints and drive perfectly safely. Other people can't. That's why you're not allowed to drink and drive.
I'm fed up of people throwing moral superiority. Oh, you're a racist. We don't know who are terrorists. It is reckless, like drink driving. Now, I wouldn't copy every word there, but the analogy lands because the principle is simple. We don't allow avoidable risk when the stakes are high. You don't need to predict a specific offender to justify basic safeguards. And that brings us to the core clash in this debate. You can't predict future criminals. True in a literal sense, but you can still design a system that reduces risk. Proper ID checks, criminal record checks, age verification, detention for absconders, fast-track removals for clearly unfounded claims, and real consequences for illegal entry. The complex excuse is what happens when nobody wants to say the quiet part. Enforcement upsets activist networks, embarrasses labor-run councils, and makes captured media uncomfortable because they'd rather debate your tone than fix the policy. So here's my bottom line. Compassion without control is not compassion. It's negligence. And sovereignty means your government serves the public first, especially women and kids, without needing permission from pundits. 2 questions for the comments. 1. Should illegal entry automatically disqualify you from settling in the UK? Yes or no? 2. If someone commits a serious violent or sexual offense and they're not a citizen, should removal be mandatory after sentence? Yes or no? If you want more of these clip breakdowns, hit like, subscribe, and drop the next debate link.